Basketball is my favorite sport. What can I say? I like the way they dribble up and down the court. And even though I love the modern game, and consider the time Kelly Olynyk randomly went nuclear in a Game 7 to be the greatest sports moment of my life, I do think the 90s are the NBA's definitive decade. There are just so many events from that era that still resonate and are considered some of the defining moments in the sport's history. I know that more people watch basketball now than ever before, but I don't know if there was a time basketball ever felt bigger. It really felt like the NBA was in the cultural zeitgeist in a way that it never was before or since. Look, if you don't still get excited to see an NBA Jam arcade cabinet in the wild, then Corncob TV should be allowed to show you nude because you ain't got no soul. It was a decade dominated by Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, but the rest of the league was full of not only awesome all-stars and iconic Hall of Famers, but also some of the greatest players to ever step foot on a court. Still, even though it's an era myself and many others remember fondly, it wasn't all great. There are plenty of terrible things from that decade that range from shocking to downright tragic. But while most of the league's worst moments took place off the court, there was one that took place in front of a nationally televised audience. It's something I'm sure the NBA would prefer be forgotten, but unfortunately for them, much like the band Styx, I have too much time on my hands. This is Pop Culture Hyperfixations, and today we're taking a trip back to 1998, and the year the Slam Dunk Contest died, so two-ball could live.
I like this competition.
Forget about the dunk! Yes. Forget about the dunk! It's past it! Two-ball is here to stay!
The Slam Dunk Contest, as we know it, didn't start in the NBA. It actually debuted in the American Basketball Association in 1976. The ABA had launched in 1967 to compete with the NBA, and despite having an array of future Hall of Famers on their rosters, the league was in serious financial peril. With talks of a potential upcoming merger with the NBA, the ABA wanted to impress their future partners and went all out to make sure that the 1976 All-Star Game would be a rousing success. One idea created by Denver Nuggets general manager Carl Scheer and ABA marketing director Jim Bacata was to highlight their stars by holding a slam dunk contest at the halftime of the All-Star Game. 5 of the ABA's biggest names competed, but the contest ultimately came down to 2 of the league's biggest stars, David Thompson and Dr. J. Julius Erving. It was the doctor who won the contest and cemented himself as the slam dunk king when he unleashed a dunk from the free throw line that is still considered the gold standard. The merger was completed at the conclusion of the 1976 season, and while the NBA tried a season-long slam dunk competition in 1977, the magic was gone and the contest went away. That is, until 1984, when a directive by the NBA's newest commissioner David Stern to come up with ideas to pay tribute to the history of the game got Carl Scheer to pitch to an NBA marketing director named Rick Welts that they should bring the contest back. Instead of halftime at the All-Star Game, the new Slam Dunk Contest would take place on its own night in conjunction with the Legends Game. And with that, the NBA All-Star Weekend was born. The first contest would see Dr. J return to defend his crown, but it was actually Larry Nance of the Phoenix Suns who would become the inaugural NBA Slam Dunk champ. The idea of not just the Slam Dunk Contest, but the All-Star Weekend as a whole was a huge success, and the rest of the 80s would see the night continue to evolve. In 1986, the three-point contest was added to the mix, and if you think I brought that up just to show this clip of Larry Bird winning, then congratulations, you are very perceptive. But as fun as it was seeing Larry Legend dominate, make no mistake about it, in the 80s, the Slam Dunk Contest was the premier event. Seemingly every year the stakes were raised as the contest got bigger and bigger. Except, of course, for the year that 5'7" Spud Webb proved that size didn't matter when he shocked the world and won. But let's not kid ourselves here. The defining dunkers of the 80s contests were Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan. Their battles for the crown are still talked about today, especially the 1988 contest, which many consider to be the greatest of all time. But as the 80s turned into the 90s, the contest began to change as less established talent began to enter the contest more regularly. Don't get me wrong, it still rocked in the early 90s, as we got awesome dunks by the likes of Dee Brown, J.R. Ryder, and Cedric Ceballos, whose blindfolded dunk continues to fool absolutely nobody. But despite all that, there was a growing feeling that the lack of big-name star power had robbed the contest of its specialness. On top of that, people were beginning to think that there just weren't any new dunks left. And when the only innovation Brent Barry's contest-winning free throw dunk in the 96 contest had was that he was white and wearing a jacket, the prevailing wisdom became that the dunk contest was dead.
Someone once told me time is a flat circle.
But the dunk contest wouldn't officially die until the train wreck that was the 1997 contest. Despite having two budding superstars in Kobe Bryant and Ray Allen competing, it was an absolute disaster. A mixture of boring dunks and baffling judging. As somehow this awesome dunk by Darvin Ham only got a 36. The contest was ultimately won in anticlimactic fashion by Kobe, but its real legacy is this attempt by Michael Finley, which is probably the thing people most remember from this abomination. And just like that, the contest died. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. And shoddily executed cartwheel. The NBA announced that the dunk contest would not return for the 1998 All-Star Weekend at Madison Square Garden, and few mourned its loss. But the contest had become a key part of the weekend, and a replacement was needed. To do so, the NBA looked into its bag of tricks and introduced a national audience to something they called two-ball.
From a backyard hoop to their school gym, that's where two-ball started for Zach and Kim. They pick their spots and make their shots in just 60 seconds. They can get red hot, get red hot. Their teamwork won from city to city. Passing and shooting had them sitting pretty. Zach and Kim might have started small, but to prove that anyone can win it all. NBA two-ball, that's NBA two-ball. Take the shot.
While most people wouldn't learn about two-ball until 1998, the game had actually been around for several years as part of a grassroots campaign to increase youth participation in basketball. Under the leadership of David Stern, the NBA was making strides to grow the sport, and two-ball was one of its many initiatives. I'm sure you're asking, so how do you play two-ball? And I really wish you would be more patient, because I'm getting there. Two-ball is a game played in pairs where two players have 1 minute to score as many points as possible. They must alternate their shots, and points are determined based on where you shoot from on the court. You must follow basic basketball rules regarding dribbling, and you gain bonus points if you make it from every spot on the court, but you lose points if you don't at least attempt one from every location. Initially, the contest was sponsored by the NBA's longtime partner McDonald's, and competitions were run all across the country. The contest was eligible to anyone from ages 9 to 17, and the divisions were broken up by age as well as gender. Although there was an intergender division boys and girls could team up in as well. Throughout the 90s, kids from all across the US competed in two-ball tournaments, with the finals usually taking place during half-times at NBA games. While the competition in America was fierce, two-ball was also a key part of the NBA's global initiative as well. I don't know if they ran full tournaments there, but two-ball was also brought to countries like Canada, England, Mexico, and the Philippines in an effort to help grow the sport there. Back in the United States, another sport the NBA was trying to grow was women's basketball. The WNBA was coming off a successful inaugural season, and as owners of the league, it was in the NBA's best interest to strike while the iron was hot. So, for the debut of two-ball, it was decided that the teams that competed would consist of an NBA and WNBA player who both represented the same city. Initially, there was excitement from people for two-ball because it was something different. Like I said before, people really thought the dunk contest had run its course. But as for the players, there were definitely some who were annoyed by the situation. Aside from those who were angry that the dunk contest was gone, there were those who were pissed that the selection format for the two-ball teams meant that they had no shot at competing. The contest promised $25,000 to the winners, but unless your city also happened to have a WNBA franchise, you couldn't even be considered. But the major issue that came up was revealed by NBA reporter Jackie McMullen, who explained to CNN that it was the WNBA's involvement as a whole that had ruffled the most feathers.
Well, actually what happened, Larry, was that the players were upset that the league had not notified them that they were getting rid of the slam dunk and going to this two-ball set. And they also felt a little chagrined that the NBA, who of course is controlling the WNBA, was using their venue to promote the women's basketball. And so there was some talk this week of the players who had been asked to participate of actually boycotting this event. Now, the league and the union and the players all got together, and I think the unions decided this isn't the battle that they really want to fight, that there are going to be so many more big ones down the line. So they've let it go, but clearly it's just it's sort of a preview of the skirmishes to come. We're going to have a long summer of labor unrest.
Oh, yeah.
Jackie McMullen was right when she said it was a preview of labor issues to come, as it was only a few months after her report that the NBA began the longest work stoppage in its history. But nobody in Madison Square Garden on February 7th, 1998 knew that. All they knew is that it was time to two-ball. 8 teams would compete, and the talent they got was pretty impressive, as some all-time greats agreed to participate. The rules were pretty much the same as discussed earlier, except the top 2 scorers would then compete against each other head-to-head to see who took the crown. So how was the first two-ball competition? In a word?
Stinky!
You can't spell fundamentals without fun, but you can certainly not have any fun watching people do those fundamentals. It was just watching people shoot and rebound. And the only time the crowds were able to get into it was when someone got hot for a little bit, which happened pretty sparingly. They also had coaches for some reason, which seemed about as useless as... Honestly, I don't even have a comparison for how useless that idea was. The production was also crazy, and God bless Cheryl Miller for trying her best to sell people on how fun two-ball was, but she was fighting an uphill battle. Everyone did try their best, well, sort of, as Doc Rivers pointed out on commentary, that most of the NBA guys didn't even bother showing up to shoot around. It was the WNBA women who took it serious. Two of the teams didn't even really bother trying to take a shot from every spot, as the Phoenix Suns team of Steve Nash and Michelle Timms took exclusively long-range shots, while Karl Malone of the Utah team just took a shot from the 8th spot, while his teammate Tammy Reese did all the rebounding. Malone was playing in the All-Star game the next night and didn't want to get hurt, so it was Reese's idea that she should do the heavy lifting, which Malone made sure to let everyone know so nobody would think he was a misogynist. Which, thank God. If there's one thing I know about Karl Malone, it's that there's nothing disgusting about him when it comes to women. To show how kinda dumb this contest was, even with their strategy that violated the spirit of the game a little bit, Malone and Reese made the finals, where they would go up against Houston's Clyde Drexler and Cynthia Cooper. I will give it this, it was an exciting finish, as Houston pulled it off in the closing seconds to win the competition. But overall, the two-ball era was not off to a great start. Nobody was excited by what they saw, and people already began to call for the return of the dunk contest. And as director Spike Lee pointed out, it really sucked that the year they replaced it with two-ball was the year the All-Star game was in the basketball mecca that was Madison Square Garden. Behind closed doors, the conversations were already beginning for the return of the contest, with many feeling it would return in 1999, but the NBA lockout went for so long that no All-Star weekend would be held. A televised two-ball competition would be held that year, but it was in conjunction with Nickelodeon, who ran a youth competition that concluded at that year's NBA Finals. 2000 would see two-ball return to All-Star Weekend, but nobody cared, because that was the year they officially brought back the dunk contest. It was also the night Vince Carter put on one of the greatest performances of all time, and basically ensured the contest's permanent survival. Two-ball was once again relegated to the opening slot of All-Star Saturday Night, and although Utah's Jeff Hornacek and Natalie Williams won in another exciting final shootout, the only other moment of note was Washington's ball got stuck. I don't know if there's a better way to sum up the disappointment of two-ball than Jeff Hornacek being forced after competing to make a half-court shot to win some crowd members $1 million, only to see him get not even remotely close. The contest made its final appearance in 2001 in front of a lot of fans that were dressed as seats. Once again, it's a pretty boring contest, made worse by the lack of effort from some of the NBA players. I mean, Tracy McGrady couldn't be bothered to even take off his warm-ups. Sacramento's Peja Stojakovic and Ruthie Bolton would take home the final two-ball crown, and the contest was quietly retired. They still liked the idea of WNBA integration into All-Star Weekend, so the contest was replaced by the Hoop It Up tournament, which would see 3-on-3 games between teams composed of an NBA legend, an NBA star, a WNBA star, and a celebrity. That ran for a couple years and is probably most notable for the time Justin Timberlake scored on Kenny the Jet Smith. After that, it was replaced by the Shooting Stars Challenge, which took some of the ideas from Hoop It Up and some of the ideas from two-ball and mashed it up into a, well, pretty fun event that would see teams of 3 try to score from designated spots as fast as possible. That contest ran for a little over a decade before being discontinued in 2014. With that, most of the WNBA involvement in All-Star Weekend has gone away. Although after the success of the 2024 Steph vs. Sabrina 3-point challenge, more crossover events have been discussed, although not executed. The dunk contest continues to main event every All-Star Saturday night, and every Sunday morning is spent hearing all about how the dunk contest is dead.
Someone once told me time is a flat circle.
As for two-ball, while the competitions aren't of the magnitude they were in the 90s, the game does live on. Kids all across the world are still entering two-ball competitions and learning the same basketball fundamentals that the NBA wanted to teach them when they first brought the game into the world. But after all that work to teach kids the rewards of physical activity, two-ball's biggest legacy is probably a video game. I can't prove it, but I'm willing to bet that there are more people who were waiting for this part of the video than any other part. Some of this is still murky to me, but the story as best as I can figure it out is that way back at the '98 All-Star Game, some attendees were given PlayStation demo discs that featured a video game version of 2-ball. This demo, which ran off the engine for NBA Jam Extreme, could only be played with another human player and only consisted of a 1-minute 2-ball game. Nobody is sure just how many people got them, and hell, nobody's even sure how many were made, but the common estimate I saw was 500 to 1,000. As you might imagine with a free PlayStation demo disc, most of the copies have likely been destroyed. Its scarcity has made it a fascinating piece for video game collectors, and every few years a copy makes its way onto an auction site and fetches its seller a pretty penny. It's so rare that it's been 28 years since it was released, and in that time only a few have ever been confirmed to exist. Luckily for us, those who have found the game have been gracious enough to share their findings. And the footage out there, I think, truly captures the spirit of NBA 2-ball. A spirit of absolute mediocrity. Sorry, Cheryl. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. And what's your favorite 90s basketball memory? Let me know in the comments below.